Does better specs make for a better phone? Or is there more to the story? Let's try and answer that question in today's video. Hey guys, Omar here from C4E Tech, and today I'm gonna be comparing the OnePlus Nord with the Realme X3 SuperZoom. So if you do end up finding this video useful, then please consider subscribing and turning on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Let's now get started. Design-wise, both these phones have a unique look to them. The Realme X3 SuperZoom comes with an eye-catchy gradient finish, while OnePlus has gone with a softer pastel look on the Nord. This also means the Nord is less of a fingerprint magnet, although just like the X3 SuperZoom, it's still quite slippery. That's because at the core, both these phones are glass sandwiches. More specifically, Corning's Gorilla Glass 5, both to the front as well as the back, held together by a plastic frame. That being said, I prefer the ergonomics of the Nord. It's sleek, has an overall smaller footprint, and weighs a mere 184 grams. That's nearly 20 grams lighter than the X3 SuperZoom. It's also got that alert slider to the right that I absolutely adore. So when it comes to design, if you like me prefer smaller, lighter phones in pastel shades, then the Nord is for you. But if something a bit more flashy is what you desire, then the Realme X3 SuperZoom fits the bill. The smaller size on the Nord translates directly to a smaller display. So we have a 6.44-inch panel on the Nord compared to a bigger 6.53-inch one on the Realme X3 SuperZoom. Both have the spill-shaped cutout to the top left for the dual selfie cameras. That being said, the Nord has a few key advantages here. First off, smaller bezels, especially a thinner chin. And the second and biggest advantage, it's AMOLED. So when compared to the IPS panel on the Realme X3 SuperZoom, it's got deeper blacks and punchier colors. Now to be fair, the Realme does have the higher 120Hz refresh rate, but I can't really differentiate between the 90Hz on the Nord and the 120Hz on the X3 SuperZoom, especially when it comes to day-to-day tasks. On top of that, the HDR10 Plus AMOLED panel on the Nord is a lot better when it comes to content consumption. So this round goes to OnePlus. Taking a look at the internals, we have last year's flagship Snapdragon 855 Plus going up against the Snapdragon 765G. On paper, it might look like an 8 series chip going against a 7 series chip, and yes, there is a gulf in performance as the benchmark scores reveal, but as I mentioned before, when it comes to everyday stuff like scrolling through social media or jumping between apps, I really didn't feel a difference between these two. The latter is thanks to the ample amount of LPDDR4 RAM on both devices. The OnePlus Nord comes with 6, 8 or 12 gigs of RAM coupled with 64, 128 or 256 gigs of storage, while the X3 SuperZoom has two RAM variants, 6 and 8 gigs. Both come with 128 gigs of internal storage. That being said, the faster UFS 3.0 storage combined with Realme's HPB and TurboWrite technology means that the X3 SuperZoom does load up heavier games and apps quicker. The OnePlus Nord falls behind because of the slower UFS 2.1 storage. Speaking of gaming, the Adreno 640 GPU inside the Realme X3 SuperZoom is quite a bit more powerful than the Adreno 620 inside the OnePlus Nord. That means in PUBG, the 765G can only go up to HD high, while the X3 SuperZoom has no problems pushing HDR graphics settings at the extreme frame rate. The advantage also continues in games that support higher frame rates, the X3 SuperZoom feeling much snappier and more fluid. So the performance round is an easy victory for the Realme X3 SuperZoom. Battery life is an interesting story. The battery on the Realme X3 SuperZoom is only slightly larger at 4200 mAh compared to the 4115 mAh unit inside the Nord. That being said, the Nord has a less power-hungry chip inside coupled with a smaller AMOLED screen that runs at a lower refresh rate. So day-to-day battery life is almost the same here. When it comes to charging, we have the 30-watt Dart charger on the Realme X3 SuperZoom going up against the Warp Charge 30T on the OnePlus Nord. Even the charging speeds are neck and neck, so I have to call this round a tie. Moving on then to software, we have Oxygen OS 10 on the OnePlus Nord going up against Realme UI on the X3 SuperZoom. Just as Realme flexed its hardware muscles in the performance round, the Nord does the same here with Oxygen OS. It's just cleaner and faster, providing an overall better user experience. Now I won't go into the nitty-gritties here, as I'm sure all of you know what both Realme UI and Oxygen OS brings to the table. But the choice here for me was simple: Oxygen OS all the way. It's fast and fluid, and OnePlus has done an excellent job of adding features that we need and leaving stock Android to shine through for the rest. Which then brings us to the sundries. The OnePlus Nord comes with an under-the-display fingerprint scanner, courtesy that AMOLED panel. And as fast as it may be, the capacitive side-mounted scanner on the Realme X3 SuperZoom still feels a touch snappier. Face Unlock though is definitely a win for OnePlus. As far as speakers go, both can get pretty loud, but the OnePlus sounds more richer with better pronounced vocals. Both phones lack a headphone jack, and while we are on the topic of audio, call quality was excellent on both. Now OnePlus does have two more advantages here: the alert slider, which comes in really handy, and 5G connectivity, which, well, for us Indians isn't something that we can use right now. Then that leaves us with the cameras. And I have to say, we have quite an interesting bunch here. Starting off with the primary, we have a 64 megapixel Samsung GW1 sensor on the Realme X3 SuperZoom, paired with an f1.8 lens. On the flip side, we have the 48 megapixel Sony IMX586 sensor on the Nord, complete with OIS and an f1.75 lens. Under bright light, these two are really similar. Even side by side, it's very hard to pick them apart. Crisp details, great dynamic range, overall just excellent snaps. Interestingly enough, when we switch over to 48 megapixel and 64 megapixel mode, the scenario changes a bit. The OnePlus comes out with better dynamic range in most situations. Notice the blue skies in this image, and how the X3 SuperZoom has overexposed parts of this building. The details though are a smidge better on the Realme once we are really zoomed in. Now both phones have a dedicated night mode for low light snaps, but the OnePlus Nord performs way better here. OIS comes in super handy as the Nord can expose images for longer, coming out with much brighter images that look sharp with true to life colors. That being said, Nightscape 4.0 on the Realme X3 SuperZoom comes loaded with a ton of features. There's a Pro Nightscape mode, a tripod mode, as well as a Starry Night mode. Moving on to the ultra-wides, both phones have an 8 megapixel snapper. The Realme tends to go for more punchier colors here, but the Nord ends up with crisper images. Coming to the 2 megapixel macro cameras, once more we see the same. More vibrant colors on the X3 SuperZoom, but better details on the Nord. Now, one area where the X3 SuperZoom shines is its 8 megapixel periscope camera. It's got optical image stabilization and can go up to 5x optical and a whopping 60x digital zoom. The OnePlus Nord doesn't have a telephoto camera. Instead, it gets a 5 megapixel depth sensor which helps with the rear portraits. As far as selfies go, both the 32 megapixel primary selfie cameras do an excellent job. We have good details with natural looking skin tones. It's the same when it comes to the 8 megapixel ultra wide selfie snapper. Absolutely neck and neck here. When it comes to video capture, the Realme X3 SuperZoom can go up to 4K 60 FPS, while the Nord is limited to 4K 30. Taking a look at the sample footage, once more the OnePlus comes out ahead because of the more stable footage thanks to optical image stabilization. But as far as colors and details go, they're on par. Both phones have given us an option to shoot highly stabilized video. OnePlus calls it super stable, while Realme names it ultra steady. The X3 SuperZoom goes one step further, providing us with ultra steady max. That's super steady video shot using the ultra wide angle camera. Summing it all up, the Realme X3 SuperZoom provides a lot of unique features, from starry mode to that amazing zoom lens and multiple video options. But when it comes to the actual snaps and videos, the OnePlus 8 beats it out, so this round goes to the Nord as well. With both phones being so good, it can sometimes get quite tough to pick a single winner. And sometimes the price difference helps us put it all into context. Except that things here are a bit more complicated. So technically the OnePlus Nord starts at 24,999 rupees. But that version is an Amazon exclusive that starts selling only from September. For now, the 8 128GB version of the OnePlus Nord is available from 28,000 rupees. As for the Realme X3 SuperZoom, the 6 128GB version of it starts from 25,000 rupees as well, but it's available for purchase right now. So which one of these two should you pick? Well, if you're a gamer or you want the extra 64 GB internal storage, or maybe you are someone who really values the periscope zoom feature, then the Realme X3 SuperZoom is the phone for you. But for the rest, I'd go with the OnePlus Nord. The 90Hz AMOLED panel is simply gorgeous, and Oxygen OS is a treat to use, not to mention the great optics that we have on board. But that's 25,000 rupee price point. At the current 28,000 rupee price, the 8128 GB variant of the OnePlus Nord is a really tough sell, and I'd start looking at other options like the Realme X2 Pro. So that's been my 2 cents. Now I wanna know what you guys think. Which one of these phones would you pick up? Or would you rather spend a bit more and get your hands on a Realme X2 Pro? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And with that, we come to the end of this video. As always, like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. Thanks a lot for watching till the end, guys. Have a good one. Cheers.